Hello all, on this lovely spring day, I think it's time to attend to our favourite source of entertainment, self-inserts! Because what better way to spend our limited time on this planet than to sift through stories involving grown adults writing power fantasies involving idealised versions of themselves when they should have grown out of it long ago, whilst expecting people not to be unbelievably bored of how two-dimensional and unrelatable they are. Now, among all of the self-inserts people talk about since self-inserts became a thing centuries ago, I have yet to hear one as prolific as this guy. This man is what I consider the quote-unquote king of self-inserts. Not in terms of quality, but rather that everything he has created involves a self-insert and not even a character loosely based on oneself like Daryl or Booker. I mean a one-to-one projection of himself being transported into these fictional worlds from real life before snogging whatever he deems his waifu, be it human or pony. A man who's become notorious for just how utterly shameless he is when it comes to shipping himself with clearly underage characters. Today, we'll be looking at The Phantom Thief from Another World by Brandon the Brony Pony. Oh boy. Okay, so let's just get this out of the way. No, this will not be a video covering Brandon himself. There's already a ton of videos about this guy and his history by plenty of other YouTubers, so I'll link those in the description in case you're curious. This is just going to be a video about his fanfiction and nothing more. Secondly, the 3 episodes of this fic that have been made have since been delisted from his channel, though they are accessible via a simple Google search. And finally, check out my Patreon in the description for exclusive perks. It's only $1. Now, let's get on with it. Our story begins with Brandon Hathwick excited to replay Persona 5 after finishing his save file. Suddenly, the TV glitches to reveal New Game Extra. After failing to find any information on this mode online, he selects it and the PS4 immediately crashes. Whilst he is bummed, Brandon doesn't mind all too much as he was tired and decided to go to sleep for the night. Whilst asleep, he is transported to the Velvet Room where Igor gives him a contract and involves him being transported to another world. Ooh. But before Brandon could ask any more questions, Igor transports him to the Persona universe, or SMT if you're going to be incredibly technical. And man, just listen to this glorious opening theme. It's...
Am I not from here? That's right, I'm not from here at all. Press the button, find it, a contract, unbreak.
Brandon then wakes up in the middle of Shibuya where he meets Ryuji Sakamoto and Yusuke Kitagawa. After Brandon introduces himself, Ryuji and Yusuke ask questions, such as how he knows their names right off the bat, to which Brandon goes to the claim that he's simply a foreign exchange student who attained Shujin. There is another question that isn't answered though. How the hell are you understanding each other? One of the things that bothers me throughout this story is that every single one of the thieves can speak perfect English, even though, as far as what has been shown in the games, Ann is the only character who speaks any English whatsoever, and even then the level of English she speaks is on par with someone in year 2 of primary school or the 1st grade for those Americans. Hell, she literally asks Ren to translate basic phrases, and if we run with it being translated for the viewer, then we are still left with the fact that Brandon, as far as we know, knows zero Japanese whatsoever. I mean, it could be argued Igor, or hell, Philemon, if we're going to be doing a deep lore cut, put some kind of universal translator that allows Brandon to communicate with them and vice versa, but that's never brought up throughout the entire story. But alas, I digress. After agreeing to take Brandon to LeBlanc, where the rest of the Phantom Thieves are, Ryuji and Yusuke question how exactly Brandon ended up there. After agreeing to take Brandon to LeBlanc, where the rest of the Phantom Thieves are, Ryuji and Yusuke discuss the odd circumstances of how Brandon ended up there, and then upon arrival at LeBlanc, Brandon immediately becomes flustered at the sight of Ann after Makoto, Futaba and Haru wonder if they're the ones causing this because of fucking course they would! And then he outright confesses his love for her. Ann, whilst understandably turning his love down, isn't opposed to knowing him better and perhaps dating him in the future. Oh my god. The rest of the group buddies with him, but not before Ren questions him on how exactly he got there, knew their names, and knew that they were at LeBlanc. Brandon spills the beans that he originates from another universe and that he's known that they were the Phantom Thieves before coming here alongside the metaverse. This is doubly confirmed when Brandon's able to understand Morgana perfectly well. Ah yes, because why bother making a subplot about them finding out who he is, where he comes from, and the ramifications that comes with that when he can get straight to the wish fulfillment? Wow, that sure sounds familiar, don't you think? After Morgana asks that, in the event Ann does end up dating him, that Brandon takes care of her. The group decide to hang out at a buffet. They enjoy their food before Brandon wipes a stain off Ann's cheek, to which the group finds enduring, and Ann is all fluff. Of course, Ryuji isn't having the best day and has an upset stomach, whilst An is in good spirits. Afterwards, the gang head out to the arcade. Futaba is gaming. Of course she is. Well, that's like one of the only in-character things she does in this fucking story. Whilst Brandon is keeping on company. Oh god. They chat for a bit and exchange contact information before Ryuji challenges Brandon to play some pool, and Brandon aces it because... why else? I mean, he said he was bad at it, but he's able to get it perfectly on the first try. Wow. The episode then ends with Sojiro allowing Brandon to stay with him and Futaba whilst he wonders what's in store for him in this world, completely glossing over how exactly he's going to get back home or any of the sort. Though we do have a post-credit scene where a girl, who is jealous of Aunt Takamaki, because Brandon says so, peeks behind a corner and instantly falls for Brandon, making this a fucking love triangle! God damn it, first episode and I'm already regretting everything. The pacing is atrocious, the dialogue goes from possible to just plain shit, though nowhere near as bad as Ben 10 Ruby Dimension Twist in some cases. The characterization, whilst for the most part, does miss the mark quite a bit, and of course the main elephant in the room. Brandon x An so far is just unbelievably lame, and the dialogue between the two is just incredibly cringe. Hell, if you played past the first palace, you'd quickly recognize just how out of character An is in this episode alone. On the topic of An, did you know that just because of how gross and uncomfortable the dialogue gets, that An went through several voice actors throughout the duration of the project? Trust me, it becomes increasingly obvious throughout the episodes we look at. Now, presentation-wise, I mean, Brandon's portrait is drawn really well, no doubt because some poor sap had to draw that was getting little or no pay. The voice acting is, well, Brandon is far too quiet half the time, but everyone else is fine. It's just that Igor sounds neither like his Persona 3 to 4 or through his Persona 5 counterpart.
Each reading is done with the same cards, yet the result is always different.
Let me explain. Behold.
Welcome to the Velvet Room. Ah, I see you're new here.
Hell, Futaba and Ryuji's voice actors sounds pretty close to Erika Lindbeck and Max Mittelman respectively. I just hate that their talents were wasted on this. Overall, a bad start to the story. 3 out of 10. Hey, this is just me, after writing the script, I just remembered that the first episode title is likely a reference to one of the songs in Persona 4, so, meta humor, I guess? The second episode begins with Sojiro teaching Brandon how to make coffee just as Ren walks in. Brandon gives Ren the coffee, and whilst he does enjoy the presentation and smell, he says it's quite bitter and tells Brandon that he's got to learn some more from Sojiro, to which Brandon takes the criticism surprisingly well, which is incredibly funny because in reality, Brandon completely blows a gasket whenever you point out the plethora of issues of his work, and no, not even his own crew is spared his wrath. After that, Ren takes Brandon to Destiny Land while Sojiro assures him that he can go and that will be paid given that it's his first day on the job. We then cut to them at Destiny Land, with Brandon deciding that the group go on the roller coaster first. Ryuji is surprised that the girls are going there too, since they also need their quote-unquote thrill, whilst Morgana is hesitant to go on given, you know, he's a small cat and he's just gonna get flung off, but Ren assures him that all will be fine. They go on a roller coaster and... man, Brandon's mic cuts off whilst he's shit scared of what's happening. After getting off though, he revealed that it's just his way of getting his adrenaline out. Ryuji then asks when Brandon and Anna are gonna kiss. Brandon then suggests that he win Anna a prize at Beanbag Toss, to which Anna eagerly accepts, wanting the big panda plush. Brandon then wins the game, which as it turns out was rigged by the twins running it, and thus refused to give Anna the prize. The PNGs of the characters, dialogue boxes, and even the time changes constantly in this shot. It's especially obvious that Anna's aspect ratio is off here, and here, her sprite is floating off the bottom of the screen. I mean, I get he probably couldn't find images with consistent aspect ratios, but like, can't he just take a random anime screenshot of a fairground and place it there instead of taking squished photos of black bars? Hell, why not use a My Little Pony one since he loves that series oh so much? And for fuck's sake, can we not with this whole Brandon x An? It's becoming increasingly more uncomfortable to sit through the more I watch. An then aggressively negotiates for the plush and the twins give in and give her the prize. Whilst An and Brandon are chatting about how cool An is, the two are noticed by Goro Akechi and... Yuki Mishima? Last time I checked, the two never interacted even once. Not to mention that Akechi wouldn't even be caught dead hanging out with Mishima. Not helping matters is that Akechi is not characterized well here at all. In the game, he acts all chummy and friendly, yet also condescending and as a fox friend because he detests the Phantom Thieves so much and wants them in jail. Hell, in Persona 5 Royal, he makes it clear that under no uncertain terms that they are not friends and will never work together. So to see him acting all chummy and friendly and as if though nothing happened just completely pisses me off. Anyway, Brandon talks to Akechi about how he knows him from all the detective bullshit he does, and they act all chummy with each other instead of, well, you know, aren't telling Akechi to get the hell away from them. Though there is one thing done right here, and that is Akechi trauma dumping randomly. I thought that was kind of funny. Meanwhile, Ryuji whines that he's hungry, and as such, the thieves head to Big Bang Burger. Just as they leave, the blue-haired girl from the post-credit scene from the last episode follows them, declaring that soon she'll have that quote, cute hunk of a boy. At Big Bang Burger, we have more cringy bullshit between Ann and Brandon, with Ann wiping ketchup off Brandon's face to return the favour from yesterday. Yusuke wants to ask Futaba something, but is interrupted when Futaba builds her Eiffel Tower and devours it. Ryuji then asks Yusuke if he's doing okay, to which Yusuke says it's nothing. Haru suggests they go watch a movie, and Ann eagerly suggests they see Love Possibly. And guess who's the only one who wants to see it with her? If you guessed Brandon, you guessed correctly. Ann hugs Brandon so tightly that he can't breathe before the two watch the movie, after which Ann gushes over it, wishes she can find someone someday. Brandon then says, I'm sure you will. Yeah, how about you go stay away from her, you fucking EDP? Ryuji, meanwhile, finds the movie trash, but Futaba takes this as an opportunity to make fun of the fact that he never had a girlfriend. Yusuke, however, has a more nuanced take, stating that whilst he understands Ryuji's perspective, he notes that the main characters must have known the love interest for some time. A little while later, whilst outside, the blue-haired girl from earlier named Mizuru Kichigo takes Brandon by surprise, while Ann angrily demands that she back off. The two bicker for a bit, with Mizuru threatening to use her status in the student council to expel Ann and Ryuji, especially since Ryuji threatened to throw hands, after which she walks off. The worst part is that Makoto can't do anything since she has a higher status and Mizuru's family is one of the most influential in Japan. The episode ends with the group walking past Shujin Academy before suddenly being transported to the metaverse, which mysteriously pops back into existence because reasons. This chapter sucked just as much as the last. The issues I had with characterization and dialogue is perhaps even worse here, with the characters, especially Akechi, being so out of character and everyone else having almost nothing except being reduced to cheerleaders for Brandon X Ann. The change in Ann's VA is especially apparent here, and I expect the next chapter to also go with this. And Mizurio has absolutely nothing here other than exposition and I'm obsessed with this 33-year-old man plus some really powerful and petty because reasons. Presentation wise, it's all over the place, and for fuck's sake, the dialogue between Ann and everyone else that isn't Brandon is just lame. Overall, this is another incredibly boring episode that gets a 2 out of 10. Alright, third and final episode. The episode begins with Ryuji, or rather Skull, being surprised that the school is once again the site of a palace, this time being a mansion rather than a literal castle as with Kamoshida, which is incredibly funny considering what this story is when you break it down. A Shadow Butler requests that Brandon come here, but they kick its ass, with Ren/Joker proclaiming, I'm sorry. What? Okay, let me get this straight. A teenage girl who is simping over a 33-year-old man and is, at the very worst, a petty and spoiled brat who uses her power and influence in the student council to get what she wants is worse than a teacher who is a serial abuser who used his influence to straight up fucking his female students and physically abuses male ones to the point of breaking their limbs whilst believing that he's basically God, especially since the higher up at the school allowed him to get away for it for so long, only stopped when the Phantom Thieves, one of whom being his victims, literally had to infiltrate his mind so he turns over a new leaf and puts himself into the police. Brandon, you are not doing yourself any favours by writing this kind of drivel. Like, what the fuck am I even supposed to say here? What the fuck is wrong with you? Let me remind you, this is a 33-year-old man who is trying to convince the audience that a girl simping over his self-insert and being in a love triangle, trying to steal him from his quote-unquote waifu, is on the same level of being a literal child molester. This is the most morally bankrupt piece of writing I have ever fucking read. The thieves then manage to break in and use their personas to fight off the shadows, worried that Brandon may be in danger since he has no persona of his own. We then cut to Brandon having to deal with Shadow Mizurio. Shadow Mizurio says now that they're finally away from quote-unquote that slutty bitch Ann. Oh my god. She has Brandon around her finger and she could be her point. Brandon snaps at her, telling Mizurio that she can't treat people like they're objects and that Ann is more of a woman that she'll ever be and that he'd rather die than submit herself to... You're the one to talk! Not taking no for an answer, Mizurio prepares to kill Brandon, but luckily for him, in the nick of time, Ann/Panther comes in to save him, but Mizurio grabs her and prepares to kill her. Oh no! But what's this? Brandon hears a voice in his head as his mask forms, he tears it off and his persona awakens, complete with the whole I am thou, thou art I, and... This gleaming sword looks so lame. You could have taken so many inspirations from literally 3,000 years worth of mythology. Persona 2, for example, has Volcanus' Tatsuya's persona from Roman mythology, or Persona Thor having Izanagi, which is Yuno Arakami's persona, and stems from Japanese mythology, and even plays into the plot of the game. And yet, you create some generic unicorn-looking thing. Like, for God's sake, I've seen DeviantArt OCs more inspired than this. Brandon uses his persona, named Gleaming Sword, as I mentioned earlier, to fight the shadows alongside the rest of the thieves, and oh my god, enough of the My Little Pony bullshit! They call it a day on their infiltration and head back to Earth before they can formulate a proper route to the treasure. Back at LeBlanc, the thieves devise a way to get to the treasure. Futaba did a sweep of the area and found a library that may grant them access to deeper areas in the palace, and oh my god, for fuck's sake, this is just Kamoshida's palace! Later, they head back to the metaverse and oh my god, this dialogue is so ass! With the route to the treasure secured, they head in, and that's it! That's the end of the series, because due to backlash, can't say I'm surprised, and behind the scenes drama, Brandon decided to pull the plug on the series, delisted it from YouTube, and thus we won't ever see what becomes of Stallion and his time in the Phantom Thieves.
And nothing of value was lost.
From the blatant wish fulfillment equating petty teen drama to child abuse, this episode sums up every single problem with this series and serves as a glass of pure dumpster water. Creatively bankrupt, awful dialogue, and the blatant hypocrisy via Brandon's rant towards Mizurio just makes this episode an utter chore to sit through. Once again, the thieves other than Ann are reduced to NPCs that cheer on his self-insert getting with his waifu, and the love triangle is as obnoxious and two-dimensional as ever, and the issues I had previously are just 10,000 times worse. Overall, a disgraceful 1 out of 10. Fuck this chapter. In conclusion, The Phantom Thief from Another World is about what you'd expect from someone like this. A terrible, self-indulgent piece of wish fulfillment passed off as entertainment. As usual, we'll start with the characters. Brandon is a complete and utter joke. He ticks all of the boxes of terrible Gary Stu self-inserts and is so unimaginably bland as a character that he makes Daryl Loyaliate from the original Loyalty Among Worlds look like a godsend by comparison. He's always in the right, everyone loves him, he's selfless and is able to earn the trust of the thieves within like what, less than an hour of knowing them despite how hesitant they are to reveal stuff in canon, and overall might as well be a cinder block and it makes no difference. Aunt Takamaki meanwhile has been flanderized to high hell, a story of sexual trauma overcoming her struggles and dealing with her objectification as well as insecurities is completely thrown out of the window and incinerated and replaced by what amounts to a plank of wood for the sole purpose of being swimmed over by the self-insert of someone who is 15 years her senior. This is nothing short of utterly disgusting writing about a character like Ann, and given the context of who Brandon is, makes the dialogue between them all the more vile. Not helping matters is that Mizurio has absolutely zero character whatsoever other than she's influential, petty, and simps for Brandon. Ergo, Brandon has written himself into a harem involving teenage girls. All of the other thieves meanwhile are just bricks. Whilst Ryuji and Yusuke were okay, that's really all I can say, as everything else is just a big pile of nothing. Hell, everything said by Haru and Makoto throughout this entire trilogy can be counted on one hand, and the characterization just gets worse with each episode. Outside of Ann and maybe Ryuji, Brandon has little to no chemistry with any of the characters whatsoever, which, may I reiterate, drives the point of this being a self-indulgent fanfiction with pedophilic undertones. It just so happens that this one has a higher production value than most of them. The pacing is hit or miss, but it's mostly trash. The dialogue is atrocious, and I have to give any redeeming qualities is that Brandon's design is not terrible in of itself, though he looks nothing like a real guy. Mizurio's design is rough around the edges, but isn't offensive, and Ryuji and Brandon's chemistry isn't awful, but this doesn't make the story any less painful to sit through. Overall, this story gets a final score of 2 out of 10. Abysmal dog shit, as they say, and thus ends my first and only coverage of anything Brandon the Brony Pony related, as well as the end of the coverage of my first, but certainly not last, Persona fanfiction, as there are plenty of more to cover, but alas, that'll have to wait for another day. Click that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all later.